High in the Indian Himalayas, the environment is defined by snow, rock, and a crushing sense of isolation. At over 16,000 feet in Uttarakhand sits Roopkund Lake. It is a place of volatile weather, requiring days of grueling travel to reach. But despite the lack of any permanent human settlement for miles, the shores of this lake are covered in the remains of hundreds of people. These aren't buried bodies. Skulls and bones are scattered across the landscape, emerging from the dirt whenever the summer sun melts the ice. While local lore whispered of deaths in the mountains for centuries, it wasn't until expedition reports in the mid-1900s documented the site that the world realized the scale of the tragedy. This creates a difficult historical question. No known trade routes or military paths pass through here, yet hundreds of people ended their lives here. Early speculation looked for grand explanations: a lost army from a forgotten war, a group of pilgrims struck by a sudden epidemic, or even a mass ritual event. But the site lacked the usual evidence of these scenarios. There were no weapons to suggest a battle, and no artifacts to indicate a large-scale military or ritual expedition. The focus eventually shifted to a forensic examination of the skeletons themselves, specifically the trauma visible on the skulls. Forensic analysis identified blunt force fractures localized at the top of the cranium. These injuries occurred simultaneously and originated from directly above. These weren't jagged wounds from falling rocks or pointed weapons. The fractures were rounded and deep, suggesting the victims were struck by heavy, spherical objects. This led scientists to the hailstorm hypothesis, the idea that the group was caught in the open by lethal, cricket ball-sized hail. In the Himalayas, weather can turn in minutes, and on a ridge with no shelter, a storm of this magnitude would be inescapable. For years, this forensic evidence seemingly settled the matter. A terrifying mountain mystery had been reduced to a single, tragic natural disaster. That tidy conclusion lasted until researchers returned to the lake with the tools of modern genetics and radiocarbon dating. The radiocarbon dating immediately upended the hailstorm theory. It revealed that these people did not all die at the same time. The remains were actually separated by centuries. Different groups had arrived and perished at this exact spot in entirely different eras of history. Then, DNA sequencing revealed an even stranger detail about the identity of the victims. While one group had expected South Asian ancestry, a second cluster of victims carried genetic signatures from the Eastern Mediterranean. There is no clear historical record of Mediterranean travelers trekking into the remote Himalayan interior during the time periods identified by the data. The DNA findings transformed the investigation. The focus shifted from how a single group died to why completely different civilizations were drawn to this same frozen lake over a span of hundreds of years. While science struggles with the why, the mountain communities surrounding Roopkund have maintained their own explanations for generations. The lake is connected to the Nanda Devi Raj Jat, a grueling pilgrimage that follows these high mountain passes. Local legends tell of an ancient mountain goddess who, angered by the presence of disrespectful outsiders, unleashed a devastating storm of iron clouds. The myth and the science actually find common ground here. The iron clouds of the legend perfectly describe the overhead hailstorm trauma identified by the forensics. But the myth only remembers the event, not the people. Oral tradition has no memory of the Mediterranean travelers or the fact that these deaths happened centuries apart. Despite our ability to sequence their DNA, we have no record of what the later group was doing here. Science has provided the timeline, but the motivation remains hidden. Roopkund serves as a reminder that the Himalayas are a frozen archive, preserving human stories so old and unexpected that we are only just beginning to thaw them out.